Thank you. Hi, everybody. And it was really great to just hear Helen's account of her journey and her diagnosis, because I'm kind of coming at it from the other end of the spectrum, in that I'm the father of a boy, William, who is 6. He'll be 7 in July. And I think one of the things that really, for me and my wife is something that's really uncertain for us is what his adulthood would look like, because there's something where there's and we're relatively new to this community, but we don't have a great idea of the spectrum of what normal life looks like for someone as an adult with BBS. So Helen, it was brilliant to hear your perspective. So thank you for that. In terms of our journey, William was born. They diagnosed the polycystic kidney before he was born, and we were told, that's great, don't worry, it's not really commonly associated with any other conditions, which turned out obviously not to be true. And he was born with multiple digits on each hand and foot, and a couple of other issues as well. And I think the biggest thing that I think was difficult for us in those first few months was, and I don't know if this is something that's shared by others on this call, but there was a real lack of information, or I think support, in terms of what the next steps would be, because when he was born and he had these abnormalities, there was a certain amount of obvious kind of concern amongst the people in the hospital when he was born. And we were told, well, these could be genetic signifiers, but we'll send off for testing and you'll get an appointment in about 3 months, and then we'll take it from there. And that kind of ejected us into a fairly sort of scary first few weeks, which I just really remember as being fairly panicked and yeah, not the kind of first few months you want to spend with your baby, really. And we had an appointment after about 3 months, and were told, well, we went to an appointment with a pediatrician at King's, and it was, I think that was probably the most damaging sort of part of the early journey, really. And I have, I know there's a lot of medical professionals on the line, and I fully accept that doctor probably did more good in his other appointments that day than I'll do in the rest of my life. But it was a really unfortunate way of handling it, because he had not really clocked before the meeting that those results had come in. He read the results of the genetic testing kind of on the screen whilst we were there, and misinterpreted them essentially, and said to us, well, actually, I can see there's a micro deletion that's associated with ichthyosis, which might explain the kidney stuff and the fingers and toes, who knows, but I think it's basically all fine, to be honest. I'll just set up an appointment with a geneticist so they can talk you through the science, but I think all looks fine, get on with things. And that was a huge burden off our shoulders. We told all our friends and family everything's fine, don't worry about it. And we went to this genetic appointment, which we kind of thought was going to be a sort of fun science lesson, and it wasn't. We met with Muriel Holder at Guy's, who was superb and was really supportive throughout those first 3 years. But she'd obviously clocked through the notes that she'd received that we'd been misinformed, because one of the first things she said to us was, well, I've read the file, and I'm sorry to say that I think this is the start rather than the end of our journey with William from the genetics perspective. So that was obviously a huge kind of thing to handle out of the blue, really. So we spent our first 3 years kind of knocking around about 3 different hospitals, probably 14 or 15 departments. William had surgery 3 times in the first 18 months or so. And that whole period was really obviously scary and just difficult. He received his diagnosis just before his 3rd birthday, and frankly, everything has got better since then, because of the support from the Great Ormond Street Clinic, and having everything consolidated and having that kind of that central point. After his diagnosis, we got an EHC plan, which just through kind of good timing, really, we were able to get together just before he went to school. Although obviously, as everyone on this call who's dealt with the EHC process knows, it was brutally difficult to get that in place. And I think one of the things I was asked when I was asking what I should cover in this, it was suggested that I cover some advice for anyone who's been recently diagnosed. I mean, the EHC process, you just have to get through all barriers of kind of social embarrassment and Englishness and just relentlessly harass whatever number you can get your hands on to get things moving, because whatever deadlines or whatever whatever structure is supposed to be in place, if you don't just make a complete nuisance of yourself, in my experience, that you have to really force things through. But we were able to get that in place, which was great. And William is now at school, mainstream, so primary school, with a fantastic teaching assistant, which really helps. I mean, in terms of the clinics and the support from the great Ormond Street team, and Tonya and Angela and all the others, and obviously Professor Beals, I mean, it's been a lifesaver for us. And the one thing I would say is I think we underestimated how absolutely emotionally exhausting that first session would be, because of you're essentially confronting every single thing you've been half thinking about or not quite wanted to address all at once in one go in one day. And I think Liz and I both felt just completely kind of wiped out by that. But that's a different way of looking at it, is that's a lot of stress in one day that previously you would be having to manage yourself across the year or whatever time period. And I think in terms of journey, I mean, one of the things that I feel was really important for me in terms of my understanding of how to think about William and the syndrome was that they're not different things. And actually, Professor Beals won't remember this at all, and there's no reason why he should. But there was something that he said in our first appointment that kind of was a bit of a hammer blow to me, but actually really helped in terms of my understanding of things. Because I think going into that appointment, I was thinking of William as his own person who was kind of battling this syndrome that was this kind of all the negative things that he, as a otherwise would be normal kid, was having to kind of fight off. And one of the things I mentioned in our first appointment at that first clinic was that he had an amazing memory, because we noticed that even though he wasn't talking at that point, you could just see from his gestures and when he's pointing and that sort of stuff that he had a memory that kind of blew us away. And Professor Beale said, "Oh yeah, that's quite common with kids with BBS." And at the time, I just thought, "Oh God, whatever door you open, BBS is kind of behind it." And I thought that was William's thing that was unique to him, his special skill. But actually, whatever road, whatever direction you go in, you find yourself bumping up against the syndrome. And that made me, that helped me to think of it as, the syndrome is him. It is, fundamentally kind of woven into who he is, for better and for worse. And we've just got to, accept it as a whole package, rather than something we have to fight or something that's that we're in opposition to. So I think, we're at a stage now where he's going on for 6. He's doing okay in school. I don't know how common this is amongst people here, but he loves maths. He hates English. He likes reading. He doesn't like explain, like thinking about how a story will progress, but he loves reading about it. And he's getting to the age where social interaction is getting a little bit more difficult, and he's sort of, I can see him falling out of step with other children to a certain extent, which is really difficult as a parent. But equally, he has a sort of robust kind of attitude to everything that means he just doesn't let it get him down. He just keeps going with everything. The food side of things is a challenge, as it is for everyone, but we do our best, and he does. We really don't want to load of neurosis onto a 6-year-old boy, so we try and keep it as completely factual and straightforward as possible. And again, he's doing as well as we could hope with that. So really, we're in a stage now where we're sort of looking forward. We're trying to work out where we want to locate, what's best for him. Eyesight wise, he's okay at the moment. We know that that's likely to change at some point, but we're enjoying it while the current situation is okay. So I think this sort of conference is so important and so valuable, because it shows how many people are working behind the scenes to help all of our kids, or all the patients who are on the call. And I think it's such a great community to be coming together and part of. So yeah, that's my side of things.